Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today, the first time in quite a while, we're going to be doing a haul video. These are some of my recent comic book pickups from the last couple months. This is not a complete list, just some of the highlights I wanted to go ahead and showcase for the sake of this haul video. Lots of omnibuses, some paperbacks, and more. Definitely stick around if you want to check out what I picked up. Before we dive in, I do want to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you want to pick up your own comic book collected editions, perhaps some of those in the video here, first check out our channel sponsor at OrganicPriceBooks.com. You can find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see anything on their website you like, you can even use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's haul. First up, to kick off our haul, let's go ahead and start with this trade paperback. This is Ultimate Invasion from Marvel Comics by Jonathan Hickman and Bryan Hitch. Now, I did review this on my channel fairly recently, but this is the start of the brand new Marvel Ultimate Universe. I am really excited for what they have going on over here at Marvel. I am a fan of most of what I've read of the old Ultimate Universe that kicked off in the early 2000s, again from Marvel, but this just ushers in a whole new world. We get to see a lot of old heroes and villains remixed or in different forms, and honestly, I really like this new status quo. Ultimate Invasion is a 4-part miniseries that basically lays the groundwork for the new universe. We kind of get to see how it was formed and sort of some of the underpinnings. This is a really good setup kind of standalone event. I will say that this is maybe not the most comprehensive event I've ever read, but as a great miniseries to set off a new era, I honestly love it. I think Hickman did a great job, and while it might help to know characters like the Maker, you can pretty much read this as a new reader and jump right in on what the new Ultimate Universe has to offer. The art we have from Bryan Hitch throughout this collection as well, I think is quite sharp. I am a fan of the older Ultimate series from Mark Millar and Bryan Hitch, so seeing Hitch back in this Ultimate Universe, this time the new Ultimate Universe, it just feels right. I really liked what Hickman brought to the table here. I thought it was a compelling and interesting way to start a universe, and like I said, I just can't wait to see where it goes. I've only read this and the Ultimate Spider-Man trade paperback so far, the Volume 1, but I've heard pretty good things about some of the other titles that have been coming out, like Ultimate Black Panther, X-Men, and Ultimates, respectively. If you're reading the new Ultimate Universe, you'll have to let me know in the comments below if there are other series I should check out. Very excited to have this one in my collection, and I think the future is bright over here at Marvel Comics. Next up today, we have Ultimate Spider-Man, Volume 1, Married with Children by Jonathan Hickman and Marco Checchetto, amongst some others. This is the first standard edition trade paperback collection, including the first handful of issues from Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, I mentioned this series just a moment ago when I was talking about Ultimate Invasion. Please note this does take place after the events of Ultimate Invasion, and also the one-shot Ultimate Universe issue 1. I unfortunately did not read that one-shot issue, though I believe it's going to be included in an upcoming Ultimates trade paperback coming out, I think, in early spring of 2025. Anyway, with that being said, this is the new Spider-Man for this new universe, and this is essentially an origin story, but it's really character grounded, and I for one have not been more excited about an ongoing Spider-Man series in I can't remember how long. Admittedly, I am a Spider-Man fan, I am a Jonathan Hickman fan, and I am a Marco Checchetto fan, so this was definitely lined up to be a heavy hitter for me regardless, but to have this book in my hand and making my way through it in the recent months, I just fell in love with it. This is an older Peter Parker who encounters his spider powers later in life. He is married with children, as the title would suggest, and honestly, I've really dug getting into this alternate universe version of Peter. I think that this is the version of Spider-Man a lot of longtime fans have been hoping and waiting for after the events of Spider-Man One More Day during the JMS era. I do think that this title is really good for new readers, especially if you want to get into a brand new ongoing Spider-Man book. I will say reading Ultimate Invasion would certainly help establish this world for you, but if you absolutely just had to start with this trade paperback, I think it does bring you up to speed relatively early. There might be a couple spots of confusion, but overall this is a great start to what I hope is a long-running Marvel title. Again, let me know if you've been picking up Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman. Next on my list, another trade paperback today, we have Declan Shalvey's Old Dog, Redact 1. This is a Volume 1 paperback from Image Comics that kickstart a really fun little creator-owned series from Declan Shalvey. For those interested, I did have an opportunity to speak to him on my channel not too long ago. You can find that in my videos or under the Comic Creator Interviews playlist. In that interview, we talked a bit about Old Dog. I had just read it before talking to him, and I really enjoyed this book. As far as what this book is, it's essentially a spy espionage thriller mixed in with a lot of kind of science fiction and even a little bit of body horror kind of tropes. There's a lot of great psychological work here. It's one part thriller, one part mystery, and a ton of action. It involves a character that is kind of an old CIA type operative who seems to have a lot of strength and some other kind of mysterious things going on with him. There's really a lot of fun twists and turns here, and I for one can't wait to see what's ahead for this series. I didn't know much about it before picking it up. In fact, I wanted to learn a little more about Declan Shalvey before I had an opportunity to speak to him, but what I found in this book was so much more than what I even hoped, and it definitely has me wanting to keep on the lookout for more series from this incredible creator. Now, this work was written, illustrated, colored, everything by Shalvey. I know he started in the industry as a penciler and artist first, but now he's definitely doing a bit of writing, and in the cases of things like Old Dog, a bit of both. It's really a strong product here. The art just really pops right off the page. There's even some diversity in the art styles we get. There's one issue in particular that's kind of in the snow, and I just loved what he did with the artwork in that issue. The color palette was a bit more muted. Everything looked crisper and clearer, and I just thought it was fascinating. A really fun book, and if you like a good genre-bending kind of thriller, this is definitely high on my list of a book I can recommend. Okay, rounding out my trade paperbacks for this haul video, we're going to be taking a look at Feral, Volume 1, Indoor Cats by Tony Fleecs, Trish Forstner, Tone Rodriguez, and Bryan Simpson. This is an Image Comics title, and like its predecessor, Stray Dogs, which was a standalone kind of miniseries over Image Comics, that pitted kind of these cartoony, happy-looking house dogs against a just kind of creepy serial killer for a kind of taut psychological narrative that reminded me a bit of Silence of the Lambs. Feral is really in the same wheelhouse, although this time it's kind of a take on a kind of zombie outbreak kind of genre. Basically, these cats are being transported by a kind of cat catcher. There's an accident, and all of these house cats are set loose in a local forest during what we find out is a rapid, super virulent rabies outbreak. The whole book takes a kind of zombie twist, though, as these cats try to make their way home, survive, and find out what happened in the wake of this infection. I really like this mashup, kind of like Stray Dogs before it. I just really like to see how they blend genre and just the juxtaposition of that with the art style, which is very light, rounded, cartoony, and animated. The attention to detail is fantastic, and I really like the world that these creators have crafted here. For those wondering, this is not connected to the Stray Dogs universe, at least as far as I can tell. This is a standalone work that you can start picking up, but again, unlike Stray Dogs, this seems to be an ongoing title, so we will hopefully be getting a Volume 2 and more so. I did have an opportunity to meet these creators at my local comic shop, or at least I was able to meet Tony Fleecs and Tone Rodriguez. Really couldn't have been more pleasant or delightful, and I was able to pick up this book. I had been interested in it when it was coming out in single issues, but as a collected edition collector, I bided my time, and I'm happy I did. This is a really fun collection, and it really set a good groundwork for a series I hope to keep following in the future. Don't miss Feral from Image Comics. And hey, while you're still listening, if you're enjoying this video and you like things like comic book reviews, unboxings, and more, and you've yet to subscribe to the channel, I would just like to invite you to do so. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's keep this list right on going with some hardcovers. Okay, next on our list, kicking off the Omnibus section here, we have the Amazing Spider-Man Brand New Day Omnibus Volume 1. Now, this is a heavily mixed review and even criticized era for Spider-Man comics, and while I understand the critique, I personally really love delving into this period for Spider-Man. Now, this takes place after the end of the JMS era on Spider-Man, which capped off with One More Day. That really shifted the status quo for our favorite webhead, and in a way that not many people seem to enjoy. The upside for this era is it did kind of reset the clock a little bit. He's single, he's down on his luck, he's scrappy again, trying to figure out what to do. Along the way, we have so many different creators, both writers and illustrators throughout this volume, so you have this kind of interesting popcorning from one group of creators to the next, but I've really enjoyed it so far. I am still making my way through this book. Some of these issues I've read in the past, some are brand new to me, but it is really great. I love jumping around, seeing all these different works that the creators have to offer, and this is still definitely Spider-Man. I really like it. It's a very fun modern Spider-Man book, at least in my mind. Introduces a lot of villains and characters like Anti-Venom and Mr. Negative, things like that. I love the artwork we get for Spidey throughout most of this book as well. I think it's compelling, detailed, interesting. I think the print of this book was also really good. You know, all the pages seemed faithfully reproduced from what I've seen so far. I used to have the first handful of issues from this era in standard size hardcovers, which I upgraded to this. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, there's a couple issues in here I definitely haven't read yet, so I'm eager to make my way through. And I'm a sucker for Spider-Man. You know, he might not be my favorite Marvel character. I'm looking at you, Daredevil. But he is amongst my favorites. I've always been a Spider-Man fan since I was a little kid, and this was a huge year for Spider-Man, especially if you're an omnibus collector. So you'll definitely see a couple Spider-Man omnis throughout this video. But this is the one I wanted to showcase first. This was definitely one I very much anticipated. Taking a quick break from omnibus format, this is an oversized hardcover edition for Geiger by Geoff Johns and Gary Frank. This is the deluxe edition that they came out with over at Image Comics as part of their Ghost Machine imprint. This is a really great series, a really great book. This collects the first main volume of Geiger. I know they have a current ongoing series that's sort of a volume 2, but this collects that first sort of mini-series for Geiger along with portions of the 80-page giant, some extras, and some things like that. This is a huge format. This book is absolutely towering, and the art is gorgeous. We have this nice glossy print paper stock. Again, special thank you to Ghost Machine for sending this review copy. I did do a full review of this book already on the channel if you're interested, but I love this story, and being able to revisit it and read some of that 80-page giant, which I never had the opportunity to read when I had the paperback, it was a real joy going through this book again. Really happy to finally have this in my collection. I will say these are listed pretty affordably while they're in print, especially for a book this size and of this quality. If you've ever wanted to jump on with what Geoff Johns is doing over there at Ghost Machine and his whole unnamed universe, this is a perfect place to dive in, especially if you are a comic collected editions collector like myself. This is easily one of the most visually stunning collections I've had in my collection of late, and like I said, I love the attention to detail. I love their dedication to quality here. Like I said, the paper stock is nice and thick. The hardcover is just so well bound and made. I had no complaints about this book whatsoever, and they elevated a story I already very much enjoyed by giving it this awesome prestige format. Again, Geiger is incredible. Another work that I think is getting this exact format in like a month is Junkyard Joe. I think it comes out sometime in November. So if you're interested, or if you already like Junkyard Joe, which is like another series in this shared universe, highly recommend being on the lookout for that deluxe edition as well. But for now, with Geiger, absolutely elated to have this gigantic book in my personal collection. Back to the omnibus side of the fence, we have another Marvel omnibus here, courtesy of friend of the channel, Blur Jose. Thank you again for donating this book for my reading. I'm so excited to crack into it. This is Wakanda, The World of Black Panther omnibus. Now, this is kind of a companion book to the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates omnibus, I believe. In fact, even some of their design details on the hardcover and some of the interior stuff is meant to be similar looking. A lot of these miniseries came out around the same time. time as the Coates era. I will say I'm finally making my way through Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm trying to get through that before breaking into this book, but my understanding is that those works kind of run in tandem to a certain degree. Please verify that if you've read both, as you know, I'm still learning a bit about it. But this book here, The World of Wakanda, is honestly a collection of miniseries that either have to do with Black Panther, Wakanda, or his general cast of characters. All of these kind of miniseries and little one-shots and things like that together comprise this book, and I think it's a really great way to collect an omnibus. You know, sometimes we have books that are like full runs for characters, or they're event-focused books, but it's a little more rare to get a book like this that I would consider a companion piece that has other stories with this character, with this world. In fact, I think one of the only other books I think I have that's similar to this is something like the Daredevil by Frank Miller companion that has additional Daredevil stories. Perhaps that's a bit more focused on Daredevil versus this is for the general supporting cast of characters, the world of Wakanda, things like that. And honestly, like I said, one of my daily readers has been the Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates. That's always been a book I've been curious in since it was coming out, or at least since the omnibus came out. But now that I have this Wakanda omnibus, I definitely want to finish it up just so I can enjoy this book for everything it has to offer. But again, let me know if you've read this book or the Ta-Nehisi Coates era for Black Panther. I'd love to get some conversations going on that since it is a current read for me. Okay, next up, the only other oversized hardcover on this list that's not an omnibus, we have Firepower Book 2 by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee over at Image Comics. This is the part 2 of a 2-part set of hardcover editions that collect the entire run on Firepower. At the time of the recording, I actually just finished this book last night, and I had a blast with this one, so stay on the lookout for a review on the channel coming up. For those that perhaps don't know, Firepower is a creator-owned series by series creator Robert Kirkman, who wrote things like Invincible and The Walking Dead, to name a few, paired up with just an industry great Chris Samnee. Samnee's artwork is very, very memorable. You definitely can recognize his style. I first got to see him in the pages of Mark Waid's Daredevil run. Really like his kind of heavy outlines, more like rounded animated look. Everything is just so crisp and beautiful, and even the coloring in this collection just pops right off the page. We have just these epic cinematic spreads in a lot of cases here. This is a straight up martial arts kind of hidden kung fu monastery kind of genre where we have a chosen one that has to battle the forces of darkness. But this is the second half of the series, and we round out the conclusion of this work rather nicely, I felt. After the book 1, which ended at a pretty good point, I thought, we have the main character and his family thrust right back into the action to stop this evil once and for all. I will say I was so excited to get this book, but I was very sad when it was over. I do appreciate a series that doesn't overstay its welcome and can successfully stick the landing, which I think it really did here, but I'm going to miss these characters, I'm going to miss this world, and I'm definitely going to miss the art from the incredible Chris Samnee. I am so happy though that Image decided to produce these beautiful hardcovers. Like I said, there's only 2, so if you're interested in this series, you don't have to have a ton of investment to read an entire great run for a martial arts action-themed epic. For more details on the series, you can check out my review of Book 1 on the channel, or stay on the lookout for this Book 2 review, which hopefully will release soon. Okay, going back to omnibuses for the rest of this video, this is the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 4 from Bryan Michael Bendis, Mark Bagley, and more. For me, this was a huge gap filler omnibus. Now I have the entire run of that main era for Ultimate Spider-Man from the early 2000s onward. I'm so excited to have this book. Like I said, I've been wanting to collect this series in omnibus edition for so long. I can't believe Marvel finally gave it to us. I'm so excited. I will say with the brief caveat that I do have the Death of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus, which I'm treating like a Volume 5. I know they have said that they are probably going to release a Volume 5 as well. I'm not sure how they're going to map that or what else they'll include, maybe another mini-series or something, but all the main issues in the run are now collected in the 4 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man, plus that Death of Spider-Man Omnibus. So anyway, I'm really excited. This is a run I had in paperback for the longest time, kind of earlier in my comic reading journey. I did sell off stopped my entire run once upon a time when I thought I was out of comics for good, but after my 5 to 7 year hiatus, I did come back into the world of comics, and Ultimate Spider-Man was definitely a title I missed having in the collection. Luckily, Marvel announced the reprint of the Volume 1 Omnibus, and then have been just rolling out these omnibuses steadily since. Been trying to pick them up as I've gone. Some have taken me longer to get than others just due to budget constraints, things like that. But again, finally made my way through now with this Volume 4. Now, it has been a minute since I've read these particular issues, but this volume itself definitely has some memorable ones for me. I love what they do with Gwen Stacy and characters like Carnage, for example. I know that this also just has, just some good stuff. Good stuff here. If you're a fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, this is definitely a must-get collection. I'm just so happy to have it in my collection finally. Between all of these books, and even those early Miles Morales issues in that omnibus, it's just really cool to have this whole era of Ultimate Spider-Man just rounded out. Very, very excited and really thankful for Marvel for finally getting books like this in print. Really cool stuff, and this omnibus is really well made. Okay, next up, another Spider-Man omnibus. This is The Amazing Spider-Man by J. Michael Straczynski, Omnibus Volume 2. This is Volume 2 of a 2-volume set. I believe the Volume 1 might currently be out of print, though you can probably find it from secondary marketplaces like eBay or some Amazon sellers, things like that. This rounds out JMS's era on Spider-Man. This can be a controversial time for Spider-Man comics, though I think the general feedback is that this is a great run, perhaps marred by 1 or 2 stories. And I agree with that sentiment. Honestly, I love JMS's Spider-Man. I think it's great for new readers, and it is probably my pick, along with Ultimate Spider-Man, for the best modern Spider-Man runs of all time. Again, there might be a story or two I don't like during JMS's era, but honestly, we get so much rich storytelling. I think he really understands the character of Peter Parker, his supporting cast, and just what makes this character great, what makes this character work. We have some great interactions with returning villains and characters like that, but he was also not shy to kind of expand the lore for Spider-Man as well. And I just really appreciated what he did for Spidey overall, even if the legacy of what he did is kind of, again, characterized sometimes by One More Day. I still think that these stories are absolutely fantastic. The art is gripping throughout. This book also has tie-ins around the time of Marvel's Civil War, which is one of my personal favorite Marvel event comics of all time. So this is just a must-get book for me. I was so happy when they announced they were reprinting this. I missed out on getting this copy last time. I had most of these issues collected at one point in the Spider-Man by JMS Ultimate Collection paperbacks that they were releasing for a while, but a lot of these issues I haven't taken a look at in some time, and after having the Volume 1, I'm so happy to finish out this run. Really good stuff here, and this bridges the gap perfectly between the JMS Omnibus Volume 1 and the Brand New Day Omnibus Volume 1 I showcased actually earlier in this very video. If you're interested in Spider-Man, this is definitely a run to check out, one I would highly recommend, and even though it can sometimes be controversial, I honestly think JMS's time on Spider-Man cannot be understated. An absolute gem here for me. Next up, a much anticipated omnibus release. This is the reprint of Daredevil by Bryan Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev Omnibus Volume 1. This is Volume 1 of a 2-volume set, collecting this run from Bendis. I absolutely adore this run. This is actually my favorite Daredevil run to date that I've had the opportunity to read for my favorite Marvel character. That's right, Daredevil. I did have this entire run in the Ultimate Collection paperbacks for many years, and I finally decided to part ways and upgrade to the omnibus format. I believe the Volume 2 of this comes out either end of the year or early 2025. But yeah, I'm really eager to make my way through these again. I love these issues. The early arc as well. We have art from David Mack, another favorite. Absolutely gorgeous stuff in this book here. For those that don't know, Daredevil is a blind superhero with a kind of radar sense, great agility, and trained kind of by ninjas in a way. Such an amazing character, lawyer by day, vigilante by night. I just love this complex and often brooding character. This run is one of my favorites because I think Bendis and Maleev absolutely get the feel of this kind of gritty crime noir meets a superhero book. I think it's very much in the spirit of something like Frank Miller's Daredevil, just with more modern touches and flourishes. I just love this book. Like I said, it's really easy to get lost in it. It's so immersive. It's really eye-catching and interesting, whether it's the art from David Mack or, of course, Alex Maleev, who is the main artist for a lot of the Bendis run. So excited to have this back in the collection. I know I did review the Ed Brubaker Omnibus Volume 2 and the Shadowland Omnibus recently, so Daredevil has been on my mind of late. The Brubaker run does go immediately after this run here by Bendis and Maleev, so if you are picking up the Bendis era, try to snag some of the Brubaker era. I don't know if Volume 1's still in print anymore, or if you're someone who picked up those Daredevil Brubaker omnibuses, I would consider this a must-get as well. This actually goes right into Brubaker's era after the Volume 2 of this omnibus, but it really maintains a great level of consistency. I actually think you can read these runs back to back and feel like you have a pretty seamless experience. It's really wonderful. Definitely recommend. And rounding out our haul today, Spider-Man the Complete Black Costume Saga Omnibus from Marvel Comics. A couple notes on this omnibus if you haven't seen it online. There is a known misprint. There's basically one page that is completely missing from the omnibus. In its place, we have a duplicate of a page that's seen earlier in this very same omnibus. So please be advised, a lot of people have noted this error, and from what I can tell, it does appear to affect the entire print run of this initial printing. I also have one friend who noted he was actually missing 17 pages from his copy of this omnibus, although that error seems to be a lot more rare. In fact, to date, I haven't heard anyone else that shares that same misprint, but there is at least that one known misprint for this run in general. Anyway, with that huge caveat out of the way, I will speak still pretty glowingly about this collection. This was one I could not wait to collect, and even with that one misprint in mind, I am so excited to dive into this book. I've been reading this one almost nightly as well, and I'm loving it. Now, Marvel did release the contents of this book in two very large paperbacks some years ago. They were long out of print and so expensive, I never had an opportunity to pick them up. When I heard they were combining them for this oversized omnibus edition, I couldn't wait. This was absolutely a pre-order for me, and I'm digging it. This takes place after the Roger Stern era, and not too long before what David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane did in Amazing Spider-Man. There are a couple of issues missing between that and this book here, but this is still a really good gap filler omnibus, and honestly it collects a period I've always been fascinated by, which is when Spider-Man has the black symbiote costume, but before he rejects it and that symbiote fuses with Eddie Brock and becomes Venom. So these are really fun stories. I think one of the other novel things in this collection are it has a lot of great Peter Parker Black Cat stories. That relationship is one I've always wanted to see in greater detail. I haven't read a lot of their interactions and early kind of relationships, so I think that this is a really fun set, especially if you enjoy characters like Black Cat. Anyway, I do plan on doing a full review of this omnibus upon my completion of it, so definitely stay tuned to the channel in coming weeks if you are interested in seeing that. Even as a flawed print, I am still very excited to have Spider-Man the Black Costume Saga Omnibus in the collection. Okay, and with that, we're going to go ahead and round out this haul video. I know I used to make hauls monthly, now I'm kind of spacing them out every so often and just sampling some of my most noteworthy pickups. If you would like to see more haul videos on the channel, definitely let me know. I would really love feedback on this format and this kind of video concept in the comments, whether or not I should do them with more regularity again, or if you like it like this, where they just casually come up here and there. I would also love to hear in the comments, what have you been reading? What have been some of your big comic book pickups recently? What do you maybe hope to get in the coming months? Would love to get those discussions going, perhaps get some recommendations thrown out from people, for people, maybe even some books I've never heard of. So let's get those discussions going in the comments, and thank you so much again, everyone, for watching. This was a ton of fun, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, comment, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks, everyone, and until next time, have a good one.